Hey everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thank you so much for joining me here. Hope you're having an amazing day. Good day to you. What today is Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. The days kind of blend together when you're traveling. But nonetheless, we're going to take a look, of course, here at Bitcoin, make sure we understand best practice, big picture, kind of see where we're at in the overall sense of things here. And roughly if we have any support levels or if it's going to break out in any direction. Those are things we're going to try to disseminate with this analysis essentially. So if you're new to the channel, just know I'm not a financial advisor. Love teaching people to trade. I have a trading academy, community, and signal group. So if you'd like to kind of consider joining, feel free to do so. That is effectively an option down below, link in the description for CryptoCache.tech. And I do have once again, academy, community, signal group where I send out signals for every trade that I take, essentially sharing that with you so you know how to structure your trades, and then also teaching you how to trade yourself so you can learn for a lifetime instead of having to rely on me or anyone else, right? That's the whole point, and we've had a lot of cool graduations, so to speak, recently with some amazing members. So that being said, taking a look here at Bitcoin. Well, this is pretty routine. As I was mentioning yesterday, we are seeing a breakdown with the rejection there of the effectively double doji or previously double doji candle, with that gravestone to follow. So it's definitely looking like it wants to break down, but on the same accord, we do have a support level here that is officially getting tested today at 24,000. Okay, so again, that's a Fibonacci retracement level. That's a key level support for previous times, and as well as a resistance level recently. So there's a decent chance it will hold. There's also a good chance we could see a bounce off this ascending trend. So we're still in decent shape. I wouldn't say it's fantastic, but it's a natural correction that happens when the price action increases for 8 or 9 days in a row, and we effectively have a selling point, right? So it just makes sense to me that we're in this situation. I don't feel like we're going to break all the way down, but I do think if we lose this trend line, we need to kind of reevaluate things and kind of take a look around. I think 23,000 would be the next available support, minus the current support here at 24,000. And I say current support because it hasn't officially been broken yet due to the fact that the one-day candlestick hasn't closed yet. So to me, that really just means that we are not in a position to draw any significant conclusions in either direction just yet. We do also have 50 on the RSI that could and should work as a support level. It has many times in the past, and traditionally speaking, that is effectively something that we need to pay attention to. We do have a MACD divergence here, of course, kind of telling us that bulls have lost control, but it's not super, it's not super telling because of the simple fact that we're still making higher lows, right? So if we kind of break this higher low pattern, that's case in point, a closure underneath 23,000, then we'd probably have to have another conversation and consider moving to the downside. But for now, even though I don't recommend a long position per se, there are some altcoins that are ready to take off, and I do plan to cover those again soon. But needless to say, Bitcoin is definitely looking, I would say, not great, but not bad, if that makes sense. Again, sometimes it reaches these states where it's just, you're not quite sure where it's going to go. It is giving us indication that it wants to come down further, though. So let's take a look at this here. We did get a reset on TD sequential, so honestly, we're not at like this exhaustive state per se. We're also underneath 50, and we have remained under 50 for some time. So that is essentially likely going to work as a resistance. So the midterm is telling us that we should see a continuation lower. We're also seeing here as well a MACD divergence, still diverging essentially, not really giving us an indication of a long signal. So I would recommend being cautious in that sense, but also being patient too. I know it's difficult because you want to kind of jump in and get everything going, but unless you have multiple entry targets on the way down for a long position, you're not doing it right. And again, I might actually send out some signals here shortly regarding a couple of other altcoins that I'm looking at, and those would just be coins that I feel are going to either take off or perhaps retrace first and then take off. And that's kind of what we're seeing right here for Bitcoin too. It looks like it wants to come down first, but the likelihood, the overall direction is still moving up. All right, so we are getting close though. We got to keep this in mind. We could be losing this ascending trend, and if so, we got to consider if we're going to be range bound or making lower lows and lower highs. Again, a little too early to tell, but at this point we are making lower lows and lower highs on the hourly. For obvious reasons, we can see this little descending type of wedge. Well, it's not even a wedge, it's more like a channel, but we can kind of see this, that it's breaking down, so to speak, and oftentimes they continue to the downside when this happens. Again, this is just the hourly. It's not like a definitive time frame for a specific direction choice, but it does tell us that it wants to break down further. We also have the lagging span free and clear of the price action now, as well as conversion line below the baseline, and we're below the cloud. So I wouldn't say that we have a green light to take a short position, but it certainly is telling us it wants to go down lower. That's essentially what's happening because, again, the bears are losing control, the bulls are kind of, or sorry, the inverse. The bulls are losing control, whereas the bears are starting to push the price action down, and there's no buying pressure right now. And with that increased amount of selling pressure, we can kind of see that happening. Okay, taking a look at TD sequential as well. Not a lot to extract here. We haven't really hit any exhaustive states in either direction. It's been mostly consolidation to the downside, which is fairly standard for the current situation. So again, to me, if the one-day candlestick hasn't closed yet below 24,000, I don't think we should consider the sky as falling, but we have to recognize the fact that it could happen, and it's starting to shape up like it wants to. Again, be very cautious with short positions right now. There's a lot of these things that are happening, and it's just they're just little position wreckers. So a lot of times you'll see me send out either a signal or a trade that I take that either has a trailing stop loss as compared to a traditional stop loss, or it just generally speaking has wider ranges for those stop losses, those stop targets, to give us enough room to kind of bounce, right? Again, if you're day trading, different story, but the short-term swing trades that I like to kind of provide, those are a little safer in that sense, especially if you're using cross leverage over isolated, depending on your position size. Again, position size small or effectively, but the smaller the size, the better in that sense. Again, size isn't everything, and in this case, we want to make sure that if we're using smaller position sizes, we're getting to that end goal of having an actual successful trade. Right, because even if you lose out on a small trade, it's even better, especially when there's leverages. At least a lot of things factored in. So anyways, that's kind of just some general advice there. Hopefully that makes sense. And at this point, I would say that closer to 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time today is going to be my decision-making time. In other words, I want to see what the one-day candlestick does, but it does look like it kind of wants to break down further, but we're still above the ascending trend. And again, the trend is your friend. So we'll see if we get this bounce. If we do, I would say 25,000 would be the next target, and we'll see essentially what happens there. But for now, let's just go ahead and remain a little bit patient. I do appreciate your patience, of course, if you're a part of my community. And it looks like we're ready to take off in either direction here. We just got to make sure we confirm this bounce. That's what I'm looking for. All right. Well, thanks again so much for joining me here. Hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll see you again tomorrow, and you be safe out there. Take care.